Hey everybody, today I'm going to talk about places of power in two ways that you can beat it. So there's the First Order, which is only a 1-star, and Sith, which is a 3-star. So we're going to jump into the Sith fight strategy first because it's the 3-star, and then I'll cover the First Order one after that. So let's jump into it. This is the team that I used. Emperor Palpatine lead with Darth Malak, Darth Vader, Basilisk Sean Fallen, and Darth Nihilus. So Emperor Palpatine. So I do have all the zetas on this team except for Darth Vader's lead, and I don't have the Lord of Hunger on Nihilus. I don't have his lead either. So I don't have Nihilus's zetas, and I don't have the lead on Vader, the zeta lead on Vader. The rest are pretty good. I would recommend them. Absolutely. I'm not going to delve too much into the zetas other than the ones that I do have. I would recommend the ones on Palpatine, especially his lead is absolutely needed. His unique is going to keep him going to keep him survivable. So I would say overall, all the zetas are necessary. It's up to you on if you choose to use less zetas. But that's all I'm going to say on the zetas. So what makes this important though is this. So his leadership, you're going to be doing you're going to have a turn meter train here for debuffs. So that's going to be how you push through and be able to beat challenge tier 3, because challenge tier 3 for any assault battle, the enemies have crazy speed, like absolutely ridiculous speed. Also, you're going to want to spread shock on your enemies, so you deal every time for how many enemies are shocked, Palpatine's going to gain 50% turn meter for each of those enemies, and that's why you want to spread it. Also, all the enemies that are shocked, if you see here that Jedi enemies and enemies that are shocked are going to take health percent damage from Crackling Dune. So you're going to want to spread that shock so that they take 40% of their max health, for 20% for being Jedi and 20% for the shock as well. So that's Emperor Palpatine. As far as his mods, if you can see, I have them modded for protection, a good amount of speed, and potency. Here I have a potency set and a speed set. So protection, protection, protection with some potency secondary, and protection secondaries here, a little bit of potency there, and not crazy speed, but okay speed. I have him modded, and all these are just how I normally mod my characters. I didn't change any mods for this event, but I mod Emperor Palpatine for survivability first and foremost, and I do think it's important in this because he has high priority for the enemies. And if you notice when you're going to watch the video, the enemies attack him a lot. And I did die on the last phase with Palpatine in one of these runs, where I had to restart just because they went all in on him and he ended up dying. So you're going to want that survivability on him. On Malak, I have him modded for tenacity for those solos in Grand Arena, but just all the protection you can get. So I do have a speed arrow on him, and then protection, protection, protection. And then the rest is just modded for tenacity. You can mod him for survivability, health, damage, whatever you want. It doesn't matter. It's just a ton of protection though. And it's going to be his abilities that are really useful. So his ability to spread fear when he gets crit. So that's going to be very useful here. He's going to have tenacity down on his basic. This one can inflict shock. And also, if they're also shocked or feared, it stuns them, so it spreads more debuffs. Drain life is very useful because this is your tank. So drain life is going to keep him healthy, but it's also going to do a ton of damage because the enemy have a ton of health. So you're going to want that going. Next, we have Darth Vader. So Darth Vader, I have him modded for a little bit of speed. He has an offense set and a potency set. So you are going to want him potent. I do have 54% potency on him. I have a crit damage triangle and as much speed as I can get. So as you can see here, a potency primary there, protection, crit damage, speed, and then just whatever you can for his secondaries with speed, offense, potency, protection, survivability, but you just want him damaged. In a lot of ways, Darth Vader is going to be the conductor of your turn meter train, while it's the leadership for Palpatine that's going to be important. It's going to be merciless massacre and force crush, and then spreading the ability blocks with his basic. That's going to do a lot of the debuffs and is going to pump out tons and tons of turn meter. And Calling Blade is very important too, because it dispels all debuffs on enemies, and what that does is it pumps turn meter through your team. So if you have enemies that have tons of debuffs and you need in your team doesn't have any turn meter, you can Calling Blade them. Calling Blade someone with tons of debuffs and then pump turn meter throughout your team. And that is what you want to do at the end of every phase. The ideal ending is an enemy that has tons of debuffs and you Calling Blade them to kill them, and then that's going to pump a ton of turn meter to your team, so they all have 100% turn meter, and you start out with your whole team taking turns rather than the enemy taking turns, and then you could run into RNG where you lose. So that's what you need to do at the end of every phase, is try to Calling Blade as much as possible. All right, so Bastila Shan, she does basics, she spreads shock, and then she gives fear and tons of debuffs as well. So that's going to be very important. This fear is how you can force taunt on Malak. So I do try to have that at the start of every phase. You do want to fear them so that Malak can taunt. As you can see, I don't have like super great mods on her. I just have a little bit of speed. She has a speed set, a crappy crit damage triangle, and then some potency. So not the biggest of deals on how to mod her. Just a little bit of speed is good, some potency, and you just want a little bit of survivability on her so that she can do a lot of the work. I guess I'll click on her mods real quick, but as you can see, nothing too crazy here. I guess you can mod her for survivability too. She doesn't need a crit damage triangle, but that's just how I normally mod her. All right, so Nihilus, he has really crap mods. Like he's not modded well, really slow, even though he has a speed set. Not tons of survivability. Honestly, he's just kind of there. I mod him for health. I honestly in a crit damage arrow, just to keep him a little survivable, but if I wanted to make this a little easier, I would have gave him good mods, but I wanted to show that I could use my crap mods and still do this. So what's going to be important here is, he dispels buffs is fine. This lowers his Annihilate. Drain Force is going to increase their cooldowns, which is nice, and then Annihilate is the most important thing in this. He just kills, especially in the last phase. You want to start the phase and then annihilate Yoda, and then it's pretty easy from there. But with Yoda alive, he pumps a bunch of turn meter, he gives out a bunch of foresight, he gives out a bunch of buffs, and then you could really get in trouble there. So you don't want that. So you want to start your turn off on the 7th, and we'll talk about it. The 7th phase, Calling Blade if you can, pump that turn meter, go in, get that turn meter train running, get that Annihilate on Yoda, and then work through the enemies from there is ideal. But speed and as much health as you can on Nihilus. Just know in the beginning, when I played this a few times, I did have bad RNG with Emperor Palpatine dying in the last phase even after I killed Yoda, just because they hard focused him, and that's why I said it's good to have that survivability. And then I did in the beginning sometimes have Nihilus die just because he's gear 12. His health ramps, so near the end it's totally fine, but just be wary that sometimes he can die in the first few phases. After the 2nd phase, you're pretty much good to go. All right, so in the beginning here, sometimes you could just lose. There you go. So I just lost. Not a big deal. Just restart. And as I told you before, sometimes Nihilus just dies. For this phase, it's pretty good. So if you get lucky, they can get a crit on Malak, and then that forces them to attack him. As you can see here, I got a good amount of debuffs going. So I'm going to just go in, use Merciless Massacre, spread that shock, start killing people as best as I can, and then there you go. So Calling Blade to end, pumps turn meter throughout my team, which is very, very key to start that turn meter. And then as you can see, Darth Vader is taking the most turns here, and I'm trying to strategically use his Merciless Massacre to get as much dots as out there. So I Force Crush, I use a bunch of basics, and then I Force Crush as soon as it's available. And then I try to, for all the people that AoE, I try to ability block them. I did, in that one, annihilate the tank, just because the tank is the most survivable one, and the rest of them die pretty easy. And near the end, once you see like that, once you put a bunch of dots out there, they just kind of like fold over with shock and the dots and all the unique. So the first through 3 phases are pretty straightforward. You just spread dots, you try to Culling Blade as much as possible, except for this phase you try to end with as many of your abilities as possible, because the 4th phase can be a little dangerous with the enemies there, because you do have Rex, you have Anakin, Fives, Snips, and then some others. So you want to start that phase with as many abilities as possible. So as you can see, I'm not using their abilities. I have them all saved, and I'm just using basics here and letting all the dots and everything clear them. So starting here, I start off with a Force Crush, a Merciless Massacre, and I'm going to basic everyone Force Crush on Anakin, because I'm planning on getting Anakin, annihilating Anakin and getting him out as soon as I can. And then at this point, they're pretty much controlled, and that's why I say you want to save all your abilities, so that way you can kill Rex and you can kill Anakin as soon as possible. After that, I focus on Snips. And then Fives last. So Fives is pretty easy, nothing too crazy. So once it's just Fives, I'm just gonna pretty much try to basic to kill him. He did have he is very fast, and at this point it is a little dangerous to do something like this at this point, but it's pretty much fine as well. So at this point, it's very easy. Nothing special here. Same thing. I do have the bandwidth, and if you have it throughout, you can annihilate them. So as you can see here, I'm just going to do my best to try to just kill them as fast as possible while using my turn meter train, because you can still die in these phases even though it looks relatively safe and I'm going through and killing them very quickly. These guys are very, very fast. You can absolutely die from AoEs, and then you have to restart. So don't play it safe. Use the abilities as much as you can, except for phase 3 and phase 7. But other than that, even this phase, like, you can die from these temple guards. So don't slow roll it or think you're fine. Use your abilities as much as you can. Spread those buffs, spread those shocks, do that damage, and then you're going to be fine. At this point, I did save his annihilate because I wanted it at the end, or I wanted it at the beginning of phase 8. So I'm not playing around. I don't want to run the risk, because if I start that phase without it, and as you can see, it's kind of like once they start dying, it's really quick. So for this one, I did focus on the healers first. So Barriss, I try to kill her as fast as I can. So this isn't a very fast phase. They do have a lot of survivability here, and then Plo is pretty survivable. But I do try to kill Barriss as fast as I can without using that annihilate. So you can feel free to use Merciless Massacres to drive that turn meter train. You still have to do it, and then you can still use all your stuns and everything, because as you can see, Plo over here is pretty survivable. So I'm kind of like just basicking him, getting my abilities back, because he's so survivable, and then boom, I can go on to the Sentinel, and then I can start with some decent turn meter. All right, so I wasn't able to start with that Culling Blade, so I was able to Merciless Massacre, and then I was able to get some stuns out here. So it's not the ideal start, but it's fine. So luckily the taunt fell off of General Kenobi. If it didn't, I would have pulled it off with Malik, and at that point I annihilate Jedi or Yoda as quick as possible. And just know at this point it's not over. So honestly the most dangerous one is Mace, so he can pull off taunt on Malik. So I did try to keep him controlled as much as possible, and then while also trying to kill General Kenobi. So taunts here are going to be your friend, and you're just trying to spread dots as much as possible. At this point, like most of them are going to die, and I'm planning on working around Mace because he's feared, he's he's stunned. So I'm just trying to use those debuffs, pump some turn meter, and then either use Malik to kill Mace or get that annihilate, and then boom, that easy win. So that is the Sith one. It is very there are some RNG factors that can lead to you losing, but essentially you just want to focus on running that turn meter, being prepared for phase 4 and phase 8, saving the annihilate for both of those, and then running that turn meter train, ending the phase with that lightsaber throw, and very easy 3-star. The next phase, there's only 2 characters that really matter, and honestly you want the rest of the team to be as weak as possible. So if you don't have low gear Sith because your first order is going to be all relic, then you want to use the weakest first order that is going to die the easiest. So Hux, first order officer, and maybe one of the attackers or something. You don't want any survivability. You don't want them speeding it up in the beginning because Kylo Ren has to ramp. You don't need SLKR's ult to be able to 1-star this. You can beat this the second you have SLKR, as long as he has like decent relics and some of his zetas. So you do need Galactic Legend. You need Press the Advantage. You need Galactic Legend. I would say you need his zetas, like maybe not the basic Stasis Strike. Stasis, so I would say 5 of the zetas would probably be good. Maybe you can deal with less, but you do need most of the zetas. So Press the Advantage is going to give you the health ramping, and that's 100% necessary. So you need that. You need Galactic Legend. You need his lead, Stasis Strike, Furious Onslaught. I would say you need all these. His basic, probably not as much. Like, you don't need it. The modding for him, so this is just my normal modding for him, and this is how you normally want to mod SLKR. So you're going to want health, you're going to want speed, you're going to want crit damage, and you're going to want damage. So that's how you want to mod him. Like, I aim for 10k damage, as much health as you can get, in 580 speed. I do go with a defense set. You don't have to, you can go with the health set. I just think defense is superior. I do have health with offense secondary on the cross, but you can go offense here, and then you're just looking for as much offense secondaries as you can, and then crit damage here. So that's how I would recommend modding SLKR, and the Zeta is necessary. And then for crew, you are going to need Scarred. So Scarred is mandatory here. His lead Zeta is not, but Kylo gains taunt for 1 turn at the start of each encounter, has double counter chance while taunting. That counter chance is going to be very, very important because when he counters, that's what's going to drive the ult charge for SLKR, which makes it a lot easier. So I would say Scarred the Zeta is necessary. 1 defense set and 2 health sets. I think defense is very important here, and health. So he has 100k health, and I do have a crit avoidance arrow on him. You can probably go with a health primary here. I just like crit avoidance. And then health. So he doesn't need any speed. Like, speed is not important whatsoever. Like, he does have speeds on here, but it's 100% not necessary. He just needs health, and then he's going to be the shield for your team. So and he's going to be able to counterattack, which is going to give you ult for your SLKR. So SLKR will always stay in ult. And then essentially what you need is for him to survive. So as you can see, I have 0 added tenacity here. You do not want any tenacity on your crew. He already has 50%. There's nothing you can do. If there was a way to lower tenacity, I would. But you want absolutely no tenacity on Kylo Ren Unmasked, because the turn meter reduction can be resisted, and if you have tenacity, his health isn't going to ramp and he's just going to die. So his health ramping is very, very important here. Without it, your team won't survive. So if you have like a ton of tenacity and you're like, I keep dying, it's because that tenacity is stopping the turn meter reduction, and you're going to lose on it. So don't do that. All right, so let's go into the fight. I'm going to play this fight at 2x speed. I did edit it, a lot of it, because it's a very, very, very extremely long fight. So I cut out entire chunks of it, and I'm just going to talk on the important parts of how you do this. All right. So in the beginning, you want your team to just die out as fast as possible. If you can see, I just brought in my lowest gear Sith, and I'm getting hit for, our crew is getting hit for about 8,000, or healing for about 8,000 every time he gets hit. And then all right, so I did speed up here. So in the beginning, I did a stun, and then I just hit auto. So here's the end, and that's all you're going to do. At this point, he's ramping to about 12,000. If you feel like you're not having enough survivability on him, then you need to get as much health and defense on him to make him survivable. Like I said, you don't need that crit avoidance arrow. You can go with health primary, but essentially you need to ramp his health as quick as possible. In the beginning, I don't think it's important to slow roll it, so I do use his SLKR's poke right away. So I poke, and then I just hit auto, and it plays through. So as you can see here at the end, he's healing for about 10,000, which is okay. At this point, he's 100%, he's not going to die. And then I end the phase with him healing about 1,200 damage. And they're only hitting for about 9,000 damage on him. So 100% he's going to survive at this point. And then from here, I'm going to poke as soon as I can, and then I'm going to smash auto. And for the first two phases, that's all you do. You just poke, and then you hit auto, and it's going to be really slow. Like it's just not a very fast fight, and that's why I edit it the way I did, because I don't think it's necessary for you guys to sit here and watch me ramp. So here's the end of it after he ramped for a while. Let's see what they're hitting crew for. All right, so at this point they're hitting him for 19,000. All right, he's healing for 19,000. All right, and then so once we go to the third phase, this phase is a little different. So I am not going to poke this phase. As you can see, there's 3 of these stealth ones, the stealth Jedi. I honestly don't remember their name, but they're the ones with the double yellow lightsabers. When they do their jump forward special, that's what pulls your turn meter back. There you go, that move. And that's what's going to ramp crew. So this phase, why I chose not to use poke, is because when you poke, you're ramping. So when you don't poke, I don't have any stacks of siphon right now, and on auto he's just going to go from swipe into ult. And the reason that is because of his just the way his computer is set. And as you can see at this point, he's healing for 130,000. So by the point that these 3 Jedi ramped him, it ramps quite beautifully. So after this phase, which he's healing for 150,000, or 190,000 now. So at this point, you can poke at the beginning of every phase and hit auto all the way until the last phase. You can still keep it on auto at that phase, but I chose not to. So for phase 4, you do want to put the target on Anakin and kill Anakin as much as possible. And the reason why I didn't accelerate phase 3 is Anakin has healing immunity. And if they put healing immunity on SLKR and you want, or I'm sorry, on crew and you aren't ramped enough, they can still kill your crew. So this phase you can still lose if they put healing immunity on crew and then he's not ramped enough. His health at this point is absolutely ridiculous. So they're, even with healing immunity, they're not going to kill him. It's not a danger whatsoever. So I don't even pay attention to it. I just wanted to show you it. So because this is an important phase. So all I did was poke once and then hit auto, and that's all you have to do. And as long as you don't ramp on that third phase, crew is going to have enough health to get through this phase. And as you can see, even though he has healing immunity, he's still just fine, even though he's not healing, because his health pool is ridiculous. All right, so I did jump here. I'll take a second. I did jump from that phase all the way to phase 8 because at phase 4, 5, 6, 7, I did the same thing. I poked once and then I hit auto, and that's it. So I saved you like 30 minutes of looking at me autoing, and that's why I did it this way. So I just wanted to show that. I just wanted to tell you that I skipped all those phases because there's really nothing to say. Like, you poke in the beginning and then you hit auto. All right, so I do play this manually. And the reason I do that is because of foresight. So all I do is if General Kenobi has taunt, and he has foresight by the time it's in SLKR's turn, then I just do a poke. And what this does is it allows him to ramp the stacks of Siphon pretty quickly, and I found that to be the fastest way to get through this. If you want, you can just like auto it, but as you can see, everyone has foresight, and every time that happens, I just use the poke. So SLKR still, believe it or not, can die because his health isn't ramped. So you do want to keep him in all as much as possible. I think I did a poke there just because I felt like it, but in general, you don't want to. You also do want to have crew not stunned as much as possible. So I think it's like ETH Koth. I think that's his name, Mr. Horns with the big forehead. He's the one who stuns him, so you don't want him stunned because you want him to be able to counterattack so that you're charging SLKR's ult. Not the end of the world if he does stay stunned, but it's nice to have. And as you can see, I did swipe on ETH Koth there, so whenever I can swipe on someone, I will. And if everyone has foresight, or I would have to swipe on someone with foresight, then I just go with the poke. So see, and then pretty much what you're trying to do is Yoda is pumping out tons of foresight and turn meter, really annoying overall. But if you can get General Kenobi killed, which is pretty easy. This phase is pretty much a guaranteed. You're going to be just fine. So I just play it manually because it's the fastest way, and I don't have to like sit there and wait for manual to just kind of like figure it out. But after General Kenobi dies, then it's very, very easy. So it's up to you on how you want to do this. I do like to stun Yoda as much as I can. Just because he's driving that turn meter, so it makes it a little faster. And again, you can just play this on auto, and it'll play just fine. SLKR will ramp. Crew is already health is ramped like into the absolute millions. Like, I'm healing for millions every time I'm hit. So this is a safe battle. You're perfectly fine. And then SLKR is going to pretty much stay into ult 99.9% of the time, and you're going to hide behind Crew's talent anyways. So as you can see at this point, General Kenobi is almost dead, and then after he dies, it's very, very safe. I did do this fight first, so I didn't finish it. So pretty much I used SLKR to, I used his poke to just kill off the rest because I didn't want to accidentally finish it. Yeah, so as you can see, I think I'm going to do one more swipe, and then maybe that's going to get her. I jump into ult, and then that kills the majority of them. Yeah, there you go. And then I can like poke, kill Yoda, and then it's a win from there. So very, very easy, but it takes forever. Yeah, and at this point it's a win. So this fight is very, very slow, like very slow. It takes forever, and that's why it's better to use the Sith variant. But if you don't only have SLKR, even without the ult, this works just fine. So you can use this to get that CT3 done. It's just a 1-star. So my recommendations, get the Sith one up and running so that way you can just auto it, but both works for getting max rewards. It's just the time commitment on this one is huge. So saving yourself an hour every time this runs is absolutely a big win in my book. So if you have any ways that you've done this, or any other tips that you have, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I hope this helps. I have been getting a lot of good feedback from my assault battle guides, so I'm going to continue doing them for all the events. So thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe on your way out.